Good morning. I was here last year, actually. I love your church. I didn't talk a lot about my testimony last year when I was here, but it sort of has developed over the last year. I grew up in the 70s. I was born to a single mother. It was a very secular time. My household was very secular. It was a loving household, but it wasn't a disciplined household. I was brought up to just go with your emotions. Everything was based on feeling, and I was brought up in secular counseling, and that's what we were taught. Entering school, I was very charismatic as a child, and I was a very sensitive child. It just didn't mesh well in the small town that I grew up in. And right from the second I entered school, I was labeled as gay. As a 5-year-old boy, I was defending myself against this misnomer. I didn't even really know what it meant. I just knew that it was bad, and all throughout my entire school, I was bullied, I was teased, I was made fun of, even by teachers, by people in the community. I didn't even know really what was happening, but I just knew that it was just not good. In 9th grade, my parents moved me up to Grand Haven, Michigan, in part to get me away from just the horrible childhood that I had had and dealing with that. And we all gave our lives over to Christ. My parents had gotten remarried after a long divorce. They had my sister. We were going to church. It was just a really great time. I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. Things were wonderful. But I went off to college. I really wasn't truly rooted in the Word, in prayer. And I fell into the gay community. I was a theater major. That was my demographic. That's what I knew. These people welcomed me in. They accepted me. I'd never had that before in my life, and I thought, well, this is what I've needed. And after you're told something long enough, for 10, 15 years, I believed that's what I was. I tried to twist the Bible to make it fit for my life, but I never had true peace. I was never content in that lifestyle. Hence, the drugs came into play. Started out with marijuana, drinking at parties in college, and it developed into a full-on pill addiction. Throughout my 20s, I would try to come back to the Lord, and I would come home, I would go to church, I would get on fire for God, but the second I walked out of those doors, I was off and running with those worldly temptations, sort of like the parable of the sower on rocky soil. And in my late 20s, I got involved in what would become a 9-year relationship. And I got a job in the airline industry as an international flight attendant. And to the world, it looked like I had everything. A relationship, a career, flying all over the world to these exotic places. We were bringing in so much money, we didn't know what to do with it. And I was living in big cities, New York, Philadelphia. My lifestyle was fully accepted there. But I never had peace. I was constantly being convicted by the Holy Spirit. And so my drug addiction just grew deeper and deeper. And I was taking upwards of 25 Dilaudid a day, on top of all different kinds of amphetamines, Xanax, you name it. I was just trying to numb whatever these feelings were. My mother was diagnosed with bone and lung cancer in 2009, and I thought, I'm going to take this opportunity to take a break from my life, from my relationship, from my career, and just come home and be with her. I was pulling out of my driveway a May morning of 2009, and I just heard this still, small voice say, "Ben, you're not coming back." And I got home to Michigan. It was prayed over me that I was brought home for a specific reason and purpose, and I thought at the time, well, it's just to be with my mom as she's dying of cancer. But, you know, as my drug addiction progressed to levels that none of us could handle anymore, I had to make the heartbreaking decision to remove myself from my family. I was taking my mother's pain medication that she needed to deal with her bone cancer, and money from my parents. I was really breaking up the family. I was destroying things by the way I was living. And I walked away from my family for a year and a half, and I was roaming around this area, Grand Rapids, Grand Haven, homeless, addicted to drugs, hopping from couch to couch. It got to the point where even my drug addict friends didn't want to be a part of my life anymore. I ended up in jail one night. I cried out to God. I said, "God, this is not the plan you had for me. This is not where my life was supposed to end up. And I called my sister. We had been friends with the McLeans for years. I'd known about Teen Challenge. And she's like, Ben, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pick you up from jail, and we're going to drive you to Teen Challenge. That's it. And I was like, yes, that's it. I just had this instant peace. And that's what they did. And I walked through those doors, 18 months ago. I'm on staff now, actually. And God has truly transformed me by the renewing of my mind. I am not the same. I don't think the same. I don't act the same. He's amazing, what he has done to my life. I was in prayer a few months ago, and I feel like I'm being called into evangelism in some area. God's really fine-tuning that in me, and I thought, you know what, the gay community is going to hate me for what I stand up for now. I had become so exceedingly bold in that community. I was standing up for gay rights. I was doing all of this stuff that I really, truly thought was right. And I thought, this community of people, they're going to hate me for what I stand up for. And God was so clear that night in prayer, and he said, Ben, you suffered so long for unrighteousness' sake. Maybe it's time that you stand up for righteousness' sake. So you know what? That's what I intend to do with my life from now on. Stand up for righteousness and just love people. You know, this community of people is hurting. They need the love of God. They need to just be shown the love and not just have the finger pointed and I'm telling them that they're just going to go to hell. You know, that's not what won me over to God. It was just people loving on me and just sharing the love of Christ. So thank you for hearing my testimony. Thank you, Ben.